My name is Elena Vasquez, and until the night of the Perseid meteor shower in August of 2024, I was nobody special. 28 years old, junior archivist at the Natural History Museum in Chicago, perpetually behind on rent, and still sleeping under the same faded constellation quilt my abuela sewed for me when I was 9. I liked stars the way some people like old songs, something beautiful that belonged to everyone, and therefore, in a quiet way, to me. That night I drove out to the Indiana dunes because the city lights murdered the sky. I spread a blanket on the sand, lay on my back, and watched the meteors burn up like matches struck against the dark. One of them didn't burn out. It grew brighter, slower, until it was no longer a streak but a descending ember the color of molten gold. It landed. There is no other word for it. 50 yards away, silent, without impact, as though the earth simply opened a pocket for it. I should have run. Instead, I walked toward the light. The object was an obelisk of black glass veined with living gold, twice my height, humming at a frequency that vibrated behind my eyes. When I reached out, don't ask me why, my hand moved before my brain caught up. My palm met the surface, and the world folded in on itself. I woke on a floor of starlight, not metaphorical starlight. The floor was transparent, and beneath it nebulae turned like slow galaxies in a bottle. Above me arched a vault of night so complete it felt like drowning. I was naked, except for a thin silver shift that hadn't been there before. My first coherent thought was that someone had drugged me. My second was that no drug on earth could fake the smell of ozone and wintergreen that filled the air. Then he spoke.
"Welcome home, my Lyr'alel."
The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, layered like a choir that knew my marrow. A man stepped out of the dark. No, he coalesced from it. 7 feet tall, skin the color of moonlight on steel, hair a river of white fire cascading to his waist. His eyes were galaxies in negative, black sclera, violet nebulae irises, pinpricks of stars for pupils. Crown wasn't the right word for what he wore. It was a living constellation of dark matter that orbited his brow in perfect silence. He knelt, actually knelt, so our eyes were level. "Do you not remember me, beloved?" I scrambled backward until my spine hit a crystal pillar. "My name is Elena. You have the wrong person." His face did something heartbreaking. It folded the way a dying star collapses, slow and inevitable. "I have waited 4,000 years, he said softly, across 17 reincarnations. I have watched you live and die as a Sumerian priestess, as a Celtic oracle, as a Mayan stargazer who burned with her calendar. Every time your soul returns, the bond thins. This time it almost snapped entirely. I could not risk another cycle." I laughed. It came out high and cracked. "You're insane." "Perhaps." He extended one hand. The fingers were too long, joints glowing faintly under the skin like fiber optics. "But touch me and remember." Against every instinct, I did. Memory detonated behind my eyes. I saw a woman with my face, same stubborn mouth, same scar on the left eyebrow from when I was 8, but her skin was silver white, her hair living starlight. She stood on a balcony of crystal, while twin suns set over an ocean of liquid diamond. The man beside her wore the same crown of dark matter. He was laughing at something she said, and the sound of it made entire constellations flare brighter. Her name, my name, was Lyr'alel Thalanar, Queen of the Etherian Empire, bonded consort to High King Kael'thas Fortrell. We had ruled from the world ship Elena, a vessel the size of a moon that drifted between galaxies harvesting dark energy. Our bond was the Empire's heart. When two etheri joined in perfect resonance, their combined psionic field could fold space itself. Then came the war with the Voidborn. They were not creatures but absences, holes in reality that fed on consciousness. Lyr'alel and Kael'thas led the final stand above a dying star. To save the Empire, Lyr'alel sacrificed herself, channeling her entire essence into a lance of pure creation that sealed the Voidborn away. The backlash shattered her soul across 1,000 worlds and 1,000 lifetimes. Kael'thas survived. Barely. He placed the empire in stasis and began the long hunt for the fragments of his queen. The memory released me. I was on my knees, sobbing without knowing why. "It's not possible," I whispered. "It is rare," Kael'thas said. "Unique, even among my people. But you are her." "The resonance is absolute." He touched my cheek. His skin was warm, electric. "I have found you, Elena. Let me bring you home." He offered me everything: immortality, the throne of an empire that spanned galaxies, the restoration of memories that already ached like phantom limbs. All I had to do was step through the veil with him and never return. I said no, not because I didn't believe him. I felt the truth in my bones like a second skeleton. But Earth was the only home I had ever known, small and messy and mortal. I had a sister who needed me to co-sign her student loans. I had a cat named Pickles who would starve. I had a life, damn it, even if it was ordinary. Kael'thas did not rage. He only looked ancient and tired. "Then I will wait," he said, "as I have waited before." He returned me to the dunes at dawn. The obelisk was gone. Only a perfect circle of glass sand remained. For 6 months I tried to forget. I threw myself into work, cataloging meteorite fragments, telling myself the memories were hallucinations, caused by dehydration and wishful thinking. But every night I dreamed in an alien language. I woke speaking it fluently. My reflection began to change, subtle at first. Eyes a shade too violet, skin acquiring a faint luminescence under moonlight. Colleagues whispered that I looked ethereal. My sister asked if I was sick. Then the Voidborn woke up. It started with missing persons in rural areas, whole towns vanishing overnight, leaving only perfect circles of glassed earth. The news called them burn events. Scientists scrambled for explanations. On X, conspiracy theorists screamed about aliens. They weren't wrong. Kael'thas came to me again on a January night when the temperature plummeted to -30. I was walking home from the L when the streetlights died and snow began falling upward. He stood in the middle of Michigan Avenue, untouched by the wind, while cars swerved around him like he was a hole in the world. "They have found the fracture," he said without preamble. "The seal is breaking because you are awake but unclaimed. Every day you remain unbound, the rift widens. Around us, shadows peeled away from buildings, impossible geometries that hurt to look at directly. People screamed as the darkness reached for them with fingers made of nothing." Kael'thas raised one hand and light poured out of him, a solar flare in miniature. The shadows recoiled, but more came. "I can stop this," he said, "but only with you, Lyr'alel. Only together." A tendril of darkness lashed toward a child frozen in terror on the sidewalk. Without thinking, I stepped between them. The moment the void touched me, it shattered, screaming in a voice like glass dragged across reality. Kael'thas stared at me as if I were the sun. "Your soul remembers how to fight," he whispered, "even when your mind refuses." I looked at the child running to his mother, at the city descending into panic, and felt something inside me crack open. "Fine," I said, "but on my terms." He smiled then, the same smile from the memory on the crystal balcony, and it broke my heart all over again. The next weeks were a blur of preparation. Kael'thas taught me in hidden folds of space-time how to channel psionic energy, how to fold space with a thought, how to speak the language of creation that predated sound. My body changed faster now, height increasing imperceptibly, bones lengthening with growing pains that left me curled on the floor of my apartment, while Pickles licked my face in confusion. I kept my job. I needed the anchor of normalcy. Every morning I cataloged rocks while secretly practicing telekinesis on paperclips. Every night the king of an interstellar empire knelt at the foot of my second-hand couch and rested his head in my lap like a war-weary knight. We fell in love all over again, slowly, carefully. He learned to make coffee terrible at first, then perfect. I learned the names of the 17 times I had died for him. We argued about free will and destiny. He never pressured me to leave Earth permanently. I think he was terrified I would say no again. The final confrontation came above Ganymede. The Voidborn had coalesced into a single entity the size of a gas giant, a hole in space ringed by teeth of frozen screams. The Etherian fleet, awoken from 4 millennia of stasis, formed a living mandala of light around it. I stood on the bridge of Elisara wearing armor grown from my own reawakened DNA, crown of dark matter orbiting my brow in perfect synchronization with Kael'thas's. We linked hands. The resonance was orgasmic, terrifying, holy. Every atom in both our bodies sang the same note. Space folded around us like origami. Together we became the lance of creation once more, only this time neither of us had to die. We struck the Voidborn at its heart. There was no explosion, only silence as absolute as the first moment before the Big Bang. When reality unfolded again, the entity was gone. Sealed, perhaps forever. The fleet cheered in 1,000 telepathic voices. Kael'thas turned to me, eyes shining with tears that would never fall in zero gravity. "Will you come home now?" he asked. I looked back at Earth, a fragile blue marble hanging in the dark. "Part-time," I said. He laughed, the sound bright enough to light galaxies. We compromised, 6 months on Elisara ruling an empire that had waited 4,000 years for its queen. 6 months on Earth being Elena Vasquez, archivist, sister, cat mom, occasional savior of Chicago from minor Voidborn leaks. Some nights I stand on my old balcony in Pilsen, drinking coffee Kael'thas finally learned to brew perfectly, watching the same stars that once watched me. Sometimes he stands behind me, arms around my waist, crown dimmed to a gentle halo so the neighbors don't call the cops. I am still both women, the queen who died for love and the archivist who lived for wonder. The scar on my eyebrow is still there, so is the constellation quilt on my bed in 2 different star systems, and every year on the night of the Perseids, we return to the Indiana dunes. We lie on the same blanket and watch the meteors burn. Only now one of them is us, 2 souls that found each other across 17 lifetimes, burning bright enough to light the dark between stars. I was chosen by an alien king who claimed I was the reincarnation of his lost queen. He was right, but I chose him back. And that made all the difference.